All right, everybody. So we're going to talk about how to log into Proxmox. So again, once you log into Blackboard, look at which pod you're associated to. Then we're going to go ahead and go to the address bar or type in the link or bookmark it. So again, we're going to just type in http s colon / and then the last digit. So they're all going to start with 10.1.1, and then the last is going to represent your pod. So -5. Then we're going to do the colon, just like that, and do 8006. And then if this is your first time logging in, this is normal. This is a self-signed certificate. So we're going to just click Advance and click Continue. And then we're going to, inside Blackboard, will have a username and password. Appears that we can't just all use the same user account. So there's something new we learned. So we're going to go ahead and I have not created my own yet. So I'm going to just use, again, we're going to use the default. So it should say Linux PAN Authentication Administrator. That is the default. Yeah. And then we're going to click Login. Then if we get an error message, depending on which browser, you might have to hit refresh. And then just remember your password. As obviously I couldn't remember mine. All right. So now we're logged in. So here we can see by default it takes us to the data center or the CIS data center. And this just gives us a quick overview of almost everything that's out there. So that's fine. So we're going to go to our pod. So mine is number 5. So go to pod 5, click on the little arrow or click on a second time here. We can see here is all the different VMs that are running. That's simple. And then from here, we can create our other stuff. So like an example, if we didn't have an ISO and we want to install the ISO, we can go right here to the ISO and update, click upload, and then we can select, and then it would upload the ISO that we want to use if we didn't have it on the list. Not a big deal. All right. So if we want to stand up our VM, again, we're going to select. The easiest way to do it is select, and then we can right click and go to create VM, or right over here and click, and it'll give us the same thing. Now, if we click create CT, that is a container. It's totally different. So if you click on it by mistake, here it's going to say we're talking about a CX or LXC container. Just hit the X, make it go away, and then just right click again, go down to VM. Here, this number should correspond to our pod number that we're assigned. This is a number that's randomly generated. And then here we're going to just put in our name. So like an example, and I'm going to put 11 because I have a couple different machines with the same names. I can't use the same name, so just making another one. And the reason I ask everybody to use their name, so this way we know whose VM that belongs to. So if we need more space or whatever, I can then ask that person, hey, are you still using these? Do you still need them? For that reason. Then we can either hit OS or Next, either way. And then here, this is basically asking us what CD we're going to use and what OS we're going to install. So first we're going to start with the drop-down box here in red. And we're going to scroll down and pick which ISO. So like an example, if we're doing Linux, we'd pick the Linux CD. If we're doing Windows, we'd pick the Windows CD. So in this example, I'm going to use the Windows CD. And then since we're using Windows, we change the operating the guest OS and change it from Linux to Windows. If we're doing Windows 11 or Windows Server 2022 or Server 2025, we would select that. If we're doing an older one, we would select those. So we'd select the appropriate OS for us. And here we're going to go with the default one because I'm planning to do Windows 11. So there we go. Then we can hit next or can hit system. So because we're installing Windows 11, one of the requirements we have to, or two of them are, is we have to have a EFI storage because we're simulating a motherboard, so we got to choose a spot. We only have one storage array, so we're going to go with the default. Same thing. We're going to drop down, choose the same default one. Not a big deal. We're going to hit next. Here we got our storage capacity, so if we're installing Windows, then let's change this to 40, so we have a little room to install some applications. And if we wanted to emulate different drive types, we can, but IDE seems to be working fine, so let's just go with that. Then we're going to click next, or in my case, I'm just going to click the CPU because either way you can go both directions. And then here we leave sockets alone because we only have one socket motherboards. And then for cores, we're going to go in here and put 2, 3, 4. And then over here, this is our processor type. So there are many different processors. We're going to scroll all the way down and use the one host. We've had a lot of good luck doing this using the host. Not a problem. So we're going to hit next. Here it's going to show us our default memory. That should be good enough for Windows 11. So we're going to hit next. In network, we don't have multiple networks to participate in, so we only have one. So there's nothing here to do. We just leave it and hit next. And then we're basically confirming that we created a VM, we're on pod 5, we have the RAM, and all that. And then we just click finished. And then in a moment, you saw here we have our new VM. And then we can see, now that we see our name, we can just simply double click it. That gives us our pop-up. So right now it's still not started, so we just click the start button. And now we're basically just turned the computer on, and then the OS comes up. And then when you see the thing that says boot, make sure you click the screen so it's active, hit the space bar or the enter key, and then that'll start the OS to boot. Because if we don't have the page active when we hit enter, we're just hitting an enter key in an active window. So that's why I say click the Windows first to make sure that it's active. And then hit the space bar or enter at this point. So I'm not planning to do the install. This will be the next video, but see what happens next. So let's say we need to go. We're done. We can hit the X, close it out. It still keeps it running. And then when we're done using it, we can right click, pause. And then we can pause that, which is fine. So it gives us, so when we come back to it, we can hit resume, which is by right clicking on the machine, click zoom. And then we can then double click it, and that will pop up. And this will pick up where we left off. So other little usefulness to know, over here when you click this little box, we have different choices. We can do a hard reset, we can shut the machine down, we can do a hard stop, and all that. So like an example, if we haven't installed anything yet, we can hit that button, and that'll cause the machine to boot. And then we want to hit enter. If we don't hit enter quick enough, like an example, I hit enter quickly enough. All right, so let me try it real quick. So if we don't hit enter right away, so we're just kind of spacing out, and we don't hit the enter key quick enough, and here's what happens. Since there is no OS on the VM yet, because we haven't created it, all we created the environment for the OS to operate. And since it's trying to boot off the network, and since there's nothing to connect to over the network, it basically hangs like this. no big deal. All you go to do is go to power and just click hard reset, hit OK, and then click the mouse. And then when it asks you if you want to boot up the CD, hit enter the space bar and then give it a moment. And then that should start booting off the CD. So you can see here, because we can see the circle, and there we go. And then other choices here. We can set up our monitor and how we want to, use copy and paste from one VM to the other machine. Here we can have full screen, how we want the screen to look. Go back to Windows. We can go here. We can send. Okay. I guess this is something new with Edge thinking that it's a virus. Okay. I've never experienced that, but I don't use Edge at all. So, very new. And then here we can send a Control-Alt-Delete if we needed to. We can hit the escape. We can send a tab. That means tab from one. See how it's tabbing across? Maybe we don't have the graphics working quite quick enough for the mouse, and we still want to get it going so we can put the drivers in it. We can use the tab function to move over and then hit enter to accept the field box that we want to make changes to. So kind of cool. Again, we have the Microsoft key we can hit. We have the Alt key. We have the Control key, so we can do all these different things. Again, we can do together, do Control-Delete. So that is pretty much it. Those are pretty much the commands, you need to do. And then you can just click that arrow and that brings it back. All right, hopefully this little short video kind of helps you to remember how to do this. All right, thanks for watching.